you ready? Jessica? Okay. I'd like to open the evening session of the September 10th, yes? Board of Supervisors evening session. We are going to start with public comments. Now, if you have something to say about either of the two proposals in front of the board tonight, please hold your comments for those when they have their separate public hearings. This is for public comments only. You can speak to whatever else might be on your mind. If you decide to speak, I don't have anybody on the list, but if you'd like to, you may come up. When I open the public comments, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please give your name, your address, and speak directly into the microphone, and we'll try to do the same. You have 3 minutes to speak, and if you're representing a group, please state the name of the group, and you will then get 5 minutes. Jessica's going to keep time. She will let you know when you have 30 seconds left, and at that time, the chair may grant you more time if you're close to the end, and if you're not, likely not. So, and please just direct your comments to the board. There won't be any back and forth. We will accept all the comments you have, however. So I'd like to open the public comment section. Anyone who'd like to speak with public comments, you can do so now.
Is it on both issues?
Nope, this is just public comments. This is not on either issue.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Last call. We'll close the public comments and now move on to public hearings. The first public hearing is special use permit 240157 St. Dustin's Academy for a portable sawmill.
This is a request for a special use permit on property zoned A1 agriculture to allow a sawmill for processing of timber on site to be utilized in the construction of their school. This is located at 452 Modoc Lane in Roseland in the West District. This property is approximately 176 acres, owned by St. Dunstan's Academy. A by right minor site plan has been submitted for the first phase of construction for a nonprofit boarding school and is currently in the review process. The applicant's requesting to operate a portable sawmill on the property to harvest timber that will be utilized on site for the construction of the school and the associated buildings. According to the application, there is approximately 110 acres of forest on the property that's available to selectively harvest. The subject parcel is zoned A1 and is adjoined by A1 properties. The area is primarily agricultural in nature with low-density residential uses. The property is located in a rural area on the county's future land use map, which should ensure protection of the county's rural landscape and economy by maintaining open space, scenic views, and agricultural uses with compatible low-density residential uses. Primary land use types in rural areas include farms, agricultural and forestry, and institutional uses. Approval of special use permits should be based on these 4 factors. The use shall not tend to change the character and established pattern of development, shall be in harmony with uses permitted by right in the zoning district, and shall not affect adversely use of neighboring property, shall be adequately served by essential public or private water and sewer facilities, and shall not result in destruction, loss, or damage of any feature determined to be of significant ecological, scenic, or historical importance. At their meeting on July 24th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and recommended approval 6-0 of special use permit 24157 for a sawmill with the following conditions. 1, the lumber harvested shall be utilized only for projects located on the subject property and shall not be utilized for commercial use. 2, hours of operation shall be limited to from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and shall not be operated on Sunday. 3, the sawmill motor shall not exceed 25 horsepower. And 4, the sawmill shall not be located or utilized within 100 feet of any adjoining property line. Per correspondence we received from Thomas Bickley, the applicant, they are requesting a revision to recommended condition number 2 regarding hours of operation. Rather than from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., they're requesting 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Applicant's here if you have questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Dylan? Okay, then let us open the public hearing. The rules for the public hearing are the same as the ones I just gave for public comments, with the exception of you may only speak to the issue at hand. So please direct your comments to the board, and I have nobody signed up for the public hearing, but I will open it now to anyone who'd like to speak to special use permit 240157.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to allow the applicant to speak, to introduce himself, or are you going to do that after the public hearing?
I've already opened the public hearing. Let's do it after.
I'm sorry.
Let's do it after.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, and having no comments, close the public hearing. And would the applicants please come forward? It seems like we have something to talk to you about.
Absolutely. No, thank you supervisors for hearing our application for a special use permit. We really appreciate it. I just wanted to give a brief overview of what we're doing. We are a private boys boarding school that we are trying to build right now in Roseland. It's a school that combines classical education, instruction in the trades, and in agriculture. And the sawmill is going to be a great boom to our project because it will let us harvest materials from our site and construct our buildings out of trees from right there. So it's a very low impact local way to build our buildings, and it will let us be good neighbors because instead of bringing a bunch of trucks onto our property to come get our timbers, take them away, get them sawed, bring them back, we can do that work on site. So it keeps things nice and close to home. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but thanks for taking the time to hear our application.
Okay.
I have a few questions. My first one is about commercial use. There's a lot of hurdles in this building a school.
Yes.
One of them is you are wanting to teach trades, but part of trade is making money. So if you are making things or having children make things that they should one day want to sell, does that not limit, not allowing to sell the product, the wood product? Will that limit you?
That is a vital part of trades education, but craftsmanship is the primary thing we're trying to teach right now.
Okay.
I would love to be able to teach that side of the trades as well.
Yeah.
This is Father Mark Perkins, who is the assistant headmaster at St. Dunstan's.
Thanks. My reading of that is that we are not allowed to sell lumber, basically, or timbers that we produce. And that's not really part of our model ever. I don't think at any point we would never be producing timber in order to sell that. What we could do potentially is, as a timber framing school, we are going to be building timber frame structures on campus. That's our next building. So that's not for sale. But at some point in the future, potentially, in order to continue teaching timber framing without actually building another building on campus, we would certainly plan to cut a timber with the boys and then to teach them how to do it, and then we would sell that. The question, I assumed that was not relevant here because we're not selling the lumber, we're selling a finished product. And if we weren't able to sell the thing we're harvesting ourselves, then we would have to have a truck bring, does that make sense?
Yes.
So if we have the sawmill, then we can harvest our own material, cut the frame, and then sell it. If we can't use the sawmill for that because that's deemed a commercial use, that just means one truck has to deliver timbers from off-site. So again, if traffic and pollution and is a concern, then does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Does that help? Yeah, and just one clarification here, timber framing is one of the crafts that we plan to teach in our trades program at the school. It's the one that is most relevant to right now because you have to have buildings to run a school from. And so timber framing will help us both teach the kids and have the structures we need.
Anything else?
Well, you would like to change the time for using the sawmill.
Yes.
In my personal opinion, it's cool in the afternoon. Other than that, is there any reason?
Well, the other reason is because we're going to be running a school and a good bit of the day is going to be taken up with academic instruction. We will build in times to do this stuff as well, but our faculty is going to be teaching for a lot of the day. So if there is an evening where we'd like to get some sawing done, it would be nice if when the school day ends, we can do some of that. Primarily our work will happen though in the afternoon. Just be nice to have the option.
Go ahead.
I think, one thing that's really neat about this, if you get a chance, read about St. Dunstan. The history of him being the guy about silversmithing, goldsmithing, and all the rest. And of course, maybe the folklore of nailing the hoof to the devil and not his heel. The devil transacted with him and asked him to replace the cleat on his foot. Instead, he nailed it to his foot. But all that to say, I really love what you guys are doing here, what this could mean to our community, but more importantly, for what this could mean to those who come here and get educated here and what their futures can be. We don't get a lot of hands-on options in our community. It's isolated down to specific programs. So the more that we have, the better it is for not only our community, but for the youth. Whether they're from here or not, it doesn't matter to me. This is a good thing. I do have a few, just as Dr. Ligon has mentioned about the conditions, a few that I'd like to discuss with the board after we're done with him, and if I have any other corresponding questions. But beyond that, I think your 8 to 8 is a reasonable ask. I think let's work on the other 3 and then talk about the commercial side, make sure we're allowing them to be able to do what's necessary to promote this education aspect. And I'm sure these 2x4s will be real 2x4s, not 1 3/4. I know. I'll be first there to measure them, to verify, and I'll bring the whole home builder community with me. But you don't get to hear it a lot. We don't get to get a lot of votes on stuff like that. Normally, it's an Airbnb or something of that nature, which is economic driven, but to be able to have an economic driver that also has an academic aspect that is for, improving our youth and the knowledge and hands-on knowledge of life, that's an extra thing, and we don't get to vote on cool things like that all the time. So when we're ready to discuss the conditions, I have no further questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, what is the wish of the board here?
So let's rule out the easy ones first. So I do agree with their 8 to 8 determination. I think that is a reasonable ask, as Dr. Ligon has indicated. It's really no fun in the summertime to be building a house between the hours of 12 and 4. It's actually miserable. The most productive hours you get is between 6 a.m. and 10, and after that I'm just paying guys to drink gallons of water, repeat. Feels like that at least. So I do err on the side of doing the 8 to 8. Before I go to the next one, how does,
I'm fine with that.
Ernie, do you have any?
Got to see what the second one is.
Page 3. Oh, and I'm just doing it by number 2.
Okay. So we've covered 1,
All right.
2.
Well, we
Well-
haven't done 1 yet. I'm doing the easy ones first.
Oh, which is 2.
Yeah, 2.
Okay.
All right.
So
Since you were there,
Yeah.
what was the manifestation of the 25 horsepower?
Yeah. So we're going to 3.
25 horsepower. My chainsaw is at least, I'd say this is maybe as loud as my chainsaw. Certainly not, it's certainly louder than my electric chainsaw. But the gas-powered ones, it's 25 horsepower is not, we could talk while it was running.
Sure.
Now, it wasn't cutting at the time, which means it would have been louder if we had timber there. But I don't see that it's not a problem for me
Okay.
at all.
I think some of the points that I have studied on, I talked to a couple individuals who may or may not be within compliance, but have been doing this for decades and decades and maybe half a century. But What I don't want to do is to limit them to just the 25 horsepower, because the methods that exist for a sawmill, and this is obviously not married to this particular unit, because as we all know, units fail. And so having the ability to replace, what does that technology look like? One common method that a lot of farmers have talked about, they've used over the years, some no longer just because of technological advances, is utilizing a tractor, utilizing the PTO aspect of that. And, you know, tractors have a little bit more horsepower. So not limiting that, you know, you also have the right to then do an all-electric, which would basically omit horsepower. We're talking about watts then. And, you know, I don't want to get into that business necessarily. I think this comes down to that noise factor. They're using a tractor to bush hog their field. I think we should make it equal a standard tractor, which, Jessica, you had a number in mind that you mentioned to me.
The most common is around 120 horsepower, 90 PTO, so whichever you want to roll with that.
Yeah, so I think it would be wise for us to allow them to have that ability to utilize, you know, equipment that is already operating, that already operates at that horsepower, for probably longer amounts of time than the sawmill will operate. So I was going to move, I believe moving it up to that standard makes sense to me.
I just wanted to say, and this is an overall, so I'll just kind of like,
Sure.
I will give my opinion on all four.
No, I understand.
When this came before the Planning Commission, there were quite a few people that spoke in opposition. And each of these points were crafted in response to those comments that we had, mostly from adjoining landowners. And it passed, you know, unanimously because of that. So I see these as, since there was nobody here speaking against it at all, nor I haven't received any letters, I'm assuming that the conditions were things that appeased them from the problems that they may have had with the way that it was primarily stated. So I would say that I'm not opposed to 8 to 8. I don't think that is a significant issue. I think the horsepower, I think the property line, and I think the commercial use should stay as they are.
And I'm going to agree with you on the fourth item. The sawmill should not be located and utilized within 100 feet of an adjoining property line. I think that's a reasonable ask. And though I have had limited interactions with opposition, I'm really going by what I observed through from what other board members have told me, planning commission members have mentioned. I think if we equate it to the tractor level, that's not going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I'd also like to say that I don't think it's good policy to give applicants to a special use permit more of what it is they're asking for. I think they're really thoughtful about what they ask for, and I think they intend to do that, but that puts limitations on the property, and those limitations are ones that were actually proposed by the applicant, not anybody else. So
It still comes down to our discretion.
well, it does, but, you know, my discretion would be, you know, what they're asking for is what they should get. I'm not going to up the ante because I think that in the future they're going to want more. That's not my discretion, I think.
Okay. Well,
That's how I would.
all right. Well,
That's how I would put it.
sounds good, and we'll see if we have a disagreement on that.
Well,
Or-
I guess my only comment is 25 horsepower, it was chosen because it's quiet. I'm
That's really
guessing,
quiet.
right?
I think it was chosen because that's what it is.
Um,
Because they already own it. They already run it. They've already used it.
I mean, you know, technology changes. I don't want to put them in a bind, you know.
well, I mean,
They can always apply for another permit.
I know.
If they want to do
change
that.
to 30 horsepower, I mean, golly.
Just saying. You know, if someone wants to apply for something, they can do it.
I mean, I have the right to get a real big generator on my property today, you know. By right, a whole house generator.
Yep.
Those suckers are loud.
But that's not what we're talking about.
I know, but those comparisons are relevant in that bringing this to 120 horsepower to a standard tractor is not that major of a change, in my opinion. But
He does have a decent point. They didn't request something different.
And I understand that. I understand that. All right, so if we got the 8 to 8, limiting the horsepower to 25 still. So Jessica, are you still there with that? So just leave it at 25. Okay. So moving to the first one, a couple questions I had for staff. As it relates to subject property shall be this property. So would they still be able to cut a tree and turn it into a bowl? Like if they cut a 12 by 12 block out of a walnut and they could take it to the farmer's market and go sell? So they have that right with this condition, right?
Yeah, because that would be an agricultural product sold at a farmer's market or
Okay.
off-site. They're still, as with any A1 property, permitted to have events
Okay.
if they wanted to have a vendor event or.
So they would still have those rights to be able to do that. So basically, this limitation would be, as Mark mentioned, not being able to cut a board, plane a board, and then sell the board.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so that would basically be the only omission. Okay,
Correct.
I mean, if that's what that is, then it's easy enough for us.
And we have seen special use permit amendment applications
Sure.
as well. I believe with the Lander, the multifamily one, they had requested a change to one of the conditions. So should they decide to get a bigger piece of equipment, they could always come back.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So, where are you at with that?
I am happy to give them what they would like.
And that's just with that condition as presented. All right, so the only condition changing at this point is changing it from 8 to 8?
How do you feel about that, Ernie?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. I'd make a motion for 120 horsepower, but I don't think we got the votes for this. So for the sake of getting it passed, I'll,
He had a solid, I thought, on, they didn't ask for it.
okay. Get an electrical one. No, just kidding. That, since there's only 3. Jessica, is that the only condition you want to change, you think? Because there's really only one
Well,
other
we could sit
person.
here all night and debate this horsepower thing, but I just, they didn't ask for it.
Okay. So,
Okay.
if that's the case, so is that the only other point? You're good with the rest?
Yeah, as long as,
Yeah.
the first one seems more limiting than what y'all are letting on, but if everyone's happy with it.
And if that ain't working, please come back. Okay?
Yeah.
Please come back. I want to support y'all however we can with this.
Okay, can we get a motion?
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve special use permit number 240157, St. Dunstan's Academy, with the following conditions. 1, the lumber harvested shall be utilized only for projects located on the subject property and shall not be utilized for commercial use. 2, hours of operation shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and shall not be operated on Sunday. 3, the sawmill motor shall not exceed 25 horsepower. And 4, the sawmill shall not be located or utilized within 100 foot of an adjoining property line.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Dr. Vivian?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Interesting one.
and now we have the proposal for the Fork Mountain AFD. Dylan.
Alrighty. The Planning and Zoning Department received an application from Wade Lanning to create a new agricultural and forestal district, or AFD, to be known as the Fork Mountain AFD. It's located along Fork Mountain Lane, North Fork Road, Fish Hatchery Lane, and the surrounding area. Provided a map to you guys this evening that shows all the parcels that are proposed as part of the district. The green parcels are all part of the core. The blue parcels and the yellow parcels we'll get to in a minute, but those are proposed additions. This program is a voluntary program where farmers, foresters, and landowners form an AFD for the purposes of conserving areas that are rural and agricultural. The property owner continues to hold fee simple title to the land, but the easement restrictions run with the land for a set term of years. The agreements usually include exceptions that permit the landowner to withdraw from the program under certain circumstances. Benefits to this program include eligibility for land use taxation, protection from eminent domain and municipal annexation, and protection from frivolous nuisance complaints. This is a program established by the Code of Virginia. The protections are in effect for the duration of the contract period. As a result, the county is able to more accurately plan land use since the owner agrees not to convert the property to a more intensive use. The rural nature of the landscape is maintained and the tax rates remain low since residential development is slowed and county resources are not overburdened. There is a list of review criteria for AFDs. I won't go through them all here. Those are in your packet. We can put those up for you if you'd like. For our comprehensive plan, the properties are located in both high conservation value areas and natural corridors and rural areas on our future land use map. Conservation areas are those areas with significant environmental sensitivity or areas that are currently protected from development through permanent conservation or recreation use. They are established to minimize detrimental impacts to the environment, maximize groundwater recharge capacity, and protect key natural resources. Examples include steep slopes, flood inundation zones, sensitive environmental corridors, and federal and state lands. Rural areas should ensure protection of the county's rural landscape by maintaining open space, scenic views, and agricultural uses with compatible with density residential uses. Adjoining property owners were notified of the proposed AFD with a letter on August 6th. This letter included the option for property owners to join the AFD within 30 days of the date of the letter, which was September 5th. There were 5 additional landowners, those are shown in blue on your map, that joined during that 30-day period. 2 additional properties have applied between September 5th deadline and today. You can accept these part of the code with consent of the Board of Supervisors. You can accept any proposed addition all the way up to the meeting. The 2 parcels that have added since September 5th are in yellow. One is Camp Blue Ridge, and the other is a 17-acre parcel.
It's not the one on the screen.
It is different than the one on the screen. This was updated today. The AFD Advisory Committee met on July 24th to review and discuss the application. They unanimously recommended approval of the application to the Planning Commission with the stipulation that 3 of the smaller parcels not be included. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the AFD as well, also with the stipulation that those 3 parcels not be included. The reason for this being they are located further than a mile from the core and they lack agricultural and forestal significance. So in your resolution, we have a new total for the district. Originally it was 2,418 acres. Now we're looking at 2,562.804 acres for the total. Core acreage is 1,773.714 acres. This is also after one of the parcels was removed. It was recommended to be removed this evening. Don't think this is working, but. Oh, it doesn't like the color enough. There it goes. That parcel right there. About 117 acres. There are plans for a 1-lot subdivision for this property, which cannot be done if they are part of the AFD. So the recommendation is to exclude this from the current establishment of the district, and then every year, if landowners apply before June 1st, then we do this process again, and they can add, remove land for the next round. It's a lot of information, a lot of numbers. Do you have any questions?
My first is just a clarification. The ordinance that we were given, is that a typo on on the acreage? Okay. That should have been 2,418. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yep. So should you approve the ordinance, we have revisions to the acreage numbers, 1 removal and 2 additions to the list of property owners.
And this ordinance that we'd be voting on includes that already?
No, I have a marked up copy here for you.
Let me just get a picture of it.
If you want to make the motion, we'll have it all.
So once you're moved,
Okay, all right. Any questions before you modify this?
Well, that's my question
Let's
for you.
do that now before we
Okay,
modify.
whatever questions y'all have for Dylan.
so in a sense, this is a very short-term conservation easement situation.
These districts are supposed to be reviewed every 5 years.
Okay.
We currently have 5. One was approved last year for Glass Hollow, and they are all still active.
Okay. And there is possibility of adding more later.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. But it does decrease property tax, much like a conservation easement would.
Any properties, regardless of the acreage that are in the AFD, are eligible to apply for land use taxation and get it.
Oh, I see, but probably most are already.
There's no federal advantages,
Okay.
federal tax advantages.
So they would already have that right to get the land use.
That's correct.
So that wouldn't have changed.
If there are parcels that are less than 5 acres though, then
They
they
would
can
count.
still.
Got it. Okay. If there is no changes, I have some reading to do.
Into public hearing.
Do you
Oh,
have anything?
I've been through this. I'm on the committee. I was on the planning
Okay.
commission. I'm very much in favor of this. The only thing that I have to add is the importance of the core area for conservation values, because an intact core has stronger conservation values than tangential or adjacent properties that are beyond that. And the property, there's one property that is quite large that connects the National Forest parcel. You know the one I'm talking about, Dylan? Right. There, right. That's a large parcel that's part of the George Washington National Forest. The George Washington National Forest has its own forest plan to determine the planning that they have for all of their lands, and I've been doing this for 40 years, so I'm really familiar with it. And if they were to do anything to that would kind of change the character of it, they'd have to amend their forest plan. Right now, it's in a management prescription, which does allow timber removal, but doesn't allow for amenities or campgrounds or anything like that. So that actually, because it's kind of a de facto piece of the puzzle, actually makes this AFT even stronger than it appears on paper. And it also gives the adjacent landowners a little bit of weigh in on future changes to the forest management plan as well. So it kind of goes both ways. That's all.
It's a good answer to the feedback we received during the comprehensive plan process in the Long Valley area.
Public hearing.
Okay. I have no one signed up for the public hearing. The procedures are the same. If anyone wants to speak to this application, they may come forward now and do so.
My name is Susan McSwain. I live at 3254 Dutch Creek Lane in Shipman, and I'm the secretary of the AFD Advisory Committee. Because AFDs don't come before you very often, I just want to give an overview of what the situation is in the county. The Code of Virginia authorizes localities to adopt districts designed to protect working farms and forest land. And there's approximately 30 counties in Virginia that have adopted ordinances that allow the creation of AFDs. Nelson passed its ordinance in 2002. Since then, 5 AFDs have been created in the county. In the South District, we have Finley Mountain AFD. In the East District, we have Dutch Creek AFD. In the Central District, there's Davis Creek AFD. And the North District has 2 AFDs, Greenfield and Glass Hollow. Within these 5 AFDs, there are 119 families who have placed their land in these districts. And there are now, I'm not counting the one tonight, a total of 8,361 acres in AFDs. The proposed Fork Mountain AFD will be the first one in the West District, which means every single supervisor district in the county will have an AFD, assuming this is approved. And I just want to say that the AFD Advisory Committee was appreciative of the amount of legwork and information that Wade Lanning provided to us. And you have a copy of our minutes there, and if you have any questions, not only myself, but Andy Wright's here, and he's the president of the AFD Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If not, I will close the public hearing.
All right,
Jesse.
so I'm gonna work backwards, forwards. I'm gonna omit the property and then add the 2. And then I'm gonna make the motion with the new total.
I think you could motion to approve the ordinance with revisions, removing these 2, add this one.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve ordinance 0-2024-01 as amended to remove parcel number 16A18, Voc LLC, of approximately 117 acres, .54, and to add tax map number 27A16, Potomac Conference Corporation, 245 acres and 300ths, and 15A for E, Frank, I'm assuming it's J. Leonard Jr., 17 acres and 700ths of an acre.
With a revised total acreage.
With the revised total acres of 2,562.804 acres, with the core being 1,773 acres, .714.
Great job.
Well done.
I wasn't gonna try to say the
Well
the
done.
decimals and tens and hundreds.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, any further discussion? Then let us have a roll call vote.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes.
Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes,
Great.
With that.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
As
you.
a reminder, the application deadline every year is June 1st to add or remove.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, I think there's an audience member. Did you want to speak at the public hearing? No, okay, got it, just making sure. No, you don't have to, it's your right. That was it, I'm good.
Okay. Are there any other business? Okay, I will
We adjourn and continue.
look at an adjourning motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn and continue this meeting to September 19th, 2024,
At 10 a.m.
at 10 a.m., sorry.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes.
Dr. Wiggins.
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes. Adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.